What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
I'm Tom, the OG Fit Kid, the staple of the Turnbuckle Debate.
Who else we got on here?
We got one half of the Rawdown, Turnbuckle Tavern's own Rawdown. I am Nostradamus. And I am feeling something right now. And it might be on my shirt, but I'm feeling a pothead that needs to suck eggs. If he's not in the slip.
I'm sure he's in the slip, but...
Yeah. And I am the prodigy of podcasting himself, the host of the Rawdown, Young Anthony of the Titantron podcast.
I love we're going 5 wide tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun.
We had to have the Rawdown crew. Guys, you've been killing it on the Rawdown. What... Tell the listeners who maybe don't tune in what they can expect from the Rawdown on Tuesday nights at 10.
Well, the Rawdown, of course, is the #1 source for all things WWE right here at the Turnbuckle Tavern. We talk all things Raw and SmackDown, sometimes NXT, but we try to stay away from that one. We really just debate like who won the week as far as Raw and SmackDown's concerned. If there's a pay-per-view, we got our predictions, which I am, of course, your pay-per-view predictions champion, I will be defending my title next week.
Oh my God.
So stay on the lookout for me to be a defending champion. But yeah, we talk about what we should cut from, what we would cut from the week, our highlights, match of the week, everything in between as far as the WWE is concerned.
As long as you don't say we have to acknowledge you, you're good.
That'll be next. That'll be next.
If he's a 2-time champion, he's going to start calling for the.
It'll get to my head. Just you wait.
How are you the winner of the predictions when we have Nostradamus over here?
That's what I was
I would think.
Yeah, I feel like he should be. I mean,
he's full of shit.
I
Is
don't know.
what's happening.
Well,
Hey, man.
I mean,
check the tapes. I'm pretty sure I was all the way up as far as the Survivor Series predictions were concerned.
Well, see, what happened was they heard my predictions. They're like,
Yeah,
they're gonna change the script
they were
around.
too correct. So they had to change it.
but Nostradamus did predict something that is our first topic of the night.
yeah. I think we all know the rules. You guys ready to just get right into it?
Let's do it.
Hell yeah.
All right. So the first topic of the evening: did Kevin Owens make a mistake by re-signing with WWE? Now we all know this past week it came out that he re-signed for multiple years with WWE, and when everybody thought that he was almost there and going to AEW, didn't happen. He re-signed. So did he make a mistake doing it?
I'll say
Did
this.
it come out? Did it real quick before we get into it? Did it come out how many years it was for? I've heard reports of 3 years.
I've heard
but then
3, but I don't know if that's fact.
They
Okay.
haven't said an exact number, but I know that it's from Dave Meltzer, which is our most reliable source. He has 2 to 3 million per year, and he has a no cut clause, which is
Well,
Wow.
but real quick on that, I also heard that Vince also says that on the no cut clause.
I heard that too. I heard Vince come out and
okay.
say he would never put a no cut in his contracts.
So I don't know what's true, but I mean, hey, if he got that, that's good.
Hey,
I
listen,
can't
I'll
see him
tend to
doing a
lean
no-cut
3
clause.
years since he cut that promo and he said whether I'm here for 3 months or 3 years kind of is telling, because at that point he only had 3 months left on the contract as we knew it.
Right.
So the
Right.
fact that he threw out the 3 years, the way KO is, it's probably 3 years. But
Yeah.
I'm going to say anytime you get to add zeros to your bank account like he did with this contract, it's not a mistake for him and for his family, like he came out and said. For his career, I mean, I obviously they're pushing him into a main event status.
Is it always about the fucking
That's
money,
what-
man?
that was
It
gonna
is
be-
about the money.
God,
When you have kids and a family, I would think
Hey,
so.
just like how Scott
I'm
Hall
sure he's gonna be.
says-
I'm sure he's gonna be starving with AEW's contract.
just
I
like
know.
how,
Sure.
That'll put him in the poorhouse.
just
Yeah,
like how
but see-
Scott Hall said, it's not called the wrestling friendship, it's called the wrestling business. All right.
That's true,
And-
but that's like Latrell Sprewell making the comments about not being able to feed his family on his contract from the Knicks. Like, come on, man,
Oh,
fuck right out of here. It's so stupid.
he probably figured, hey, I'm young enough, 3 years, I'll make the $9 million and then I'll jump ship.
Yeah,
Here's-
I mean, I honestly,
Go ahead, Boney.
I'm sorry. Honestly, we kind of talked about this a little bit on the roll down, but I don't think he made a mistake, even like career wise. People are like, oh, they're gonna just bury him in the shuffle. First of all, they need Kevin Owens. Their roster's very thin right now. Second of all, like he was in a high profile, program last year this time with Roman Reigns. And yeah, he got dropped down the card or whatever, but what did that do? That made us like miss him, right? Like, whoa, where's Kevin Owens been? So now that he's in this prominent role again, and it's kind of fresh, everybody's like, sweet, KO's back. So I like that they said, okay, look, we're going to do this, this, and this. We resign, obviously it's something along those lines. And, or at least one of the things he obviously kind of has some kind of carte blanche in his creative control a little bit. Not saying he has creative control, but he has some say so, obviously, I believe.
Yeah.
I feel like out of everybody on that roster, he has always managed to, when I think of like shitty scripted promos and all of that in WWE, he has never been a guy that I think of that for. I don't know if he's got a little bit more creative wiggle room in those promos, but if he is just saying the script, he does it better than almost anyone in that company.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
he
I
gives
believe-
very impassioned promos. I buy into him. And here's my thing. Like, as much as, look, I get it's a business and you want to make money for your family. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And if he got $2 to $3 million a year, that's a monster contract for Kevin Owens. Like, and I don't think they would pay that for him in AEW. I honestly don't. But even though it irritates me a little bit when I just hear it be all about the money, because I think creative freedom should hold some weight with people making decisions on their future, especially when you're getting into the later tier of your career. I definitely think he made the right decision. I think as much as I would love to see him in AEW, I would love to have seen him in AEW before this influx of talent.
Yeah.
There's so much,
absolutely.
there's so much talent right now. Say it's a 3-year deal. He's 37 right now, which means when that deal comes up in 3 or 4 years, he could readjust and possibly still end up in AEW and it be a surprise. Because now we've got hit with so many surprise after surprise after surprise. If he would enter AEW now, it wouldn't be as big as it should be when he comes in, because we've already got Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson. But if you wait 3 to 5 years down the line, when this guy's I don't care what anyone says, I think a wrestler's prime is their early 40s. Like when you hit like AJ Styles right now, 44 years old. When you're getting into those maybe 38, 39 into like 44, 45 years old, I think that's when you're at your height, like maybe not physically, but psychologically, that's when you're your best wrestler. So I think we're going to get the best of both worlds. WWE needs him. They need star power. He builds his character even more, hopefully, and they use him correctly. And then 3 or 4 years down the line, if he wants to take a look at another company, then maybe he can do it then.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I approach this from like two ends, right? Like the financial end and then the creative end. From the financial end, I've never been a stats guy, but I did do my research on the contracts from WWE in 2021. Be it, who knows if these are 100% legit, but your top 5 names are Lesnar at 12 mil, Cena at 8.5, Reigns at 5, Orton at 4.5, and Styles at 3.5. Owens is number 9 right now with 2 mil. That's before this contract came in. So I'm under the assumption that, they said 2 to 3 mil. I feel like it could be a little bit more. So you're looking at someone who is now possibly in the top 5 paid wrestlers under contract right now. When you take out, Cena, because he's obviously not around, it definitely makes him top 5 right now. So I think that's just something to, keep into consideration. Like, when you're up against names like Reigns and Orton and, Styles is up here, like, that's a pretty big thing that someone like Owens is within that top 5. And so that alone is enough of a reason, if he's, who knows what his opinion is, but if he's doing it for his family, then like, of course, that's more than enough of a reason. But when you look at it from the creative end, I think you made a great point, Chad. And it's like, he's the type of guy that, I haven't seen a scripted Kevin Owens promo. It always looks like, even if it is scripted, he makes it seem that it's completely off the cuff. So when you ask me, I don't really see there would be much of a difference between Kevin Owens in WWE compared to Kevin Owens in AEW, simply because whatever Owens gets, he makes it work. It could be Owens in WWE is floating around that upper mid card as compared to Owens in AEW, surrounded by Mount Rushmore and the Young Bucks and all them. Whatever it is, scripted or not, it's Kevin Owens. So he's going to make it work. And even we look at it now, sure, you could make your argument that it's a good story, it's a bad story. He's in the main event story right now, going into what WWE is hyping up to be one of their bigger pay-per-views of the year. So that's in itself a really big thing. And he's been played up as one of the top heels on Raw. So they obviously are putting some emphasis towards him. That makes me a little bit more, kind of comfort in knowing that Owens re-signed this contract with the intention that WWE wants him and that Owens is going to be okay to, be under contract with WWE. Like, it's not just a paycheck for him because, as I've said, it's Kevin Owens.
And he's a bright spot. Fine. He's a bright spot in WWE, at least for
Absolutely.
me.
I agree 100%.
He draws me in. For a company that doesn't do a whole lot for me, he's one of those guys that's like, I feel like there are a lot of other hardcore fans that he does lend WWE some credibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I believe he's come out and said before that he's not scripted. He knows, like, he doesn't have to go by the script. They let him go out on his own. And I know Sami Zayn is another guy who they let go out on his own and have a lot of freedom. So it's kind of funny the two best friends over there get their freedom. But my biggest hope for KO is that they just keep him as a heel for a while because he's the best when he's a heel.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think selfishly, though, I would like to have seen him in AEW right now.
Oh, I agree with that comment.
That's it. I mean, when it comes down to money, like, I get it. He's making money. He's making bank. I get it. Also, I don't really give a fuck what a wrestler makes.
As a fan, I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care. I could care less what his paycheck looks like. What I care about is what he can do. And I know what stories he can tell.
Right.
And what I'm not happy with, which, I mean, selfishly, I'm not happy that he's still going to be under the WWE control, because I would like to see him with as good as what he is on promos. I'd like to see him have that freedom and how much further he could go in AEW with it, because there are potential feuds right now in AEW. One that I think would be great would be him and Miro.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see that. And I just think that his free, so selfishly, I would like to see him in AEW, but when it comes down to facts and figures and money or whatever, maybe he did make the best decision.
Yeah, I think the AEW thing that really, like, I think they're a little log jammed to bring him in right now, but I'm with you, Sneed. Like, as much as he kills his promos in WWE and he adds that level of legitimacy, selfishly, I would like to see him with the cuffs completely off.
Yeah,
because and to get a little taste of that Kevin Steen edge that was in Ring of Honor when he was cutting blazing promos. Like, people forget how edgy he was. Like, that dude was pushing the limits. And as good as he is in WWE, it is a watered down version of Kevin Steen.
Because somebody still got their foot on his neck there. You
A
know,
little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit.
They're
Yeah.
it's still there. I'd like to see him with the cuffs completely off.
They,
No,
they
and-
should
and-
actually let him take them off and shock the people a little bit and do stuff that we're not
Yeah,
used to seeing, because
right.
that
Yeah.
would have people tune in even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that one thing you brought up is like, yeah, he may be log jammed in AEW. That's more of a testament to him because he deserves to be top tier talent. You
Right.
have this potential of Kyle O'Reilly or Johnny Gargano, who are great talents, but they're not a KO level.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at the landscape of AEW. You have not only this influx of talent, but you have Hangman Adam Page, you have Darby Allin, you have MJF, some of their homegrown talent that they've really brought up. Then you add a KO that makes it just like, whew,
Right.
3 hours of television, even like you have Dark or whatever, but you can't put KO on Dark.
Yeah.
No.
Especially they would probably pay him like $1 million, $1.5 million, something like that. I would think in that neighborhood. You can't put him on YouTube,
Right.
I mean, that's the same channel we're on.
Right. Now, Anthony brought up a good point that I think is interesting, that he is in that top upper echelon in the contracts, like
Yeah.
top 5, top 10 at least, of top tier contracts. With that, I think there's two ways of looking at that. On one hand, we see all the releases and you're thinking, oh, when you have that big contract, you're a target for budget cuts. But to me, it's like, I do think once you reach if he's in that top 5, once you get up into that upper echelon, I feel like you're almost a little bit untouchable. Like when you're
Hold on,
in the
guys,
Lesnar's.
Hold on.
What happened?
Fucking shit stopped.
Did it?
Yeah.
But to me, it's top 5. Once you reach if he's in that top 5, once the Roadcaster booted it out, Sneed. Top 5. Once
Yeah.
top 5.
Top 5. We'll just start there. You ready?
Yeah. Once you're in that top 5, I feel like you almost get to like an untouchable level. Like the Roman Reigns, the Lesnar's, the Cena's of the world, like that shit, they're paying you an amount of money that I almost feel like they do see something in you beyond. I don't want to say you're untouchable because they could cut anyone. Bray, I feel like, was in that upper echelon and they got rid of him. But
Yeah.
do you think when you're in that upper echelon, does it make you bulletproof in a sense, or do you become more of a target?
I just want to say, to your point about being untouchable and bigger contracts being a target, looking at this list, number 10 on this list, Dolph Ziggler with 1.5 million.
Wow.
When you ask me, right, and
Jeez.
Boney knows I don't like Dolph Ziggler. When you ask me, I feel like if you're looking at target contracts, that's someone who you would target simply because he hasn't done anything for so long.
Right.
However, this kind of adds to your point of that he's in that untouchable reign where WWE kind of knows, well, we need this guy because he's a valuable asset to the mid card and he'll bolster any other roster that he goes to. So we kind of have to give him this money.
And he's a company guy.
And he's a company guy.
He doesn't bitch.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I think Owens being in the spot really just showcases where their thought process is on him. I think he is untouchable. I think he's done so much for WWE. You know, he spent most of his career by now in WWE. I think this is the longest that he's been in a company under contract. So, you know, all he's done for the company, all he's done, especially during this period where they're kind of growing new stars in this newer era, if you want to call it that, I would say he's pretty untouchable. I think it makes it a point that WWE gave him so much, 3.5, 3 mil, however much, to keep him around, shows you that value. He might be untouchable.
He's made a career out of eating shit and smiling about it.
Yeah.
You know, like he doesn't, because I think the reason Bray got cut wasn't purely that inflated contract. It was because he bucked back at creative. I think that's why they got rid of him.
Right.
But you have to wonder, you know, with all his Twitter action, was he just using that for contract negotiations, or was he really not happy at that point?
I think he was pulling a Randy Orton.
I was going to say it was a
Yeah.
Randy Orton.
And another thing is Kevin Owens. I think, and one thing I wanted to touched on last night, or last week on the Rawdown. I think he's like the Mick Foley of our generation. Good call. Like, even though he acts like, like he's got like some moves like Stone Cold or whatever, he throws his body like that, and I think Vince sees that and he appreciates that.
Yeah,
because Vince, like he was not a Mick Foley fan. That's we've all heard the stories. When he wanted to put the mask on him, all that stuff. And then once he got to know Mick and see his work, he's like, this guy's good. And I think it was the same situation with KO, because he had tried several times to get in WWE and was passed over. And I think finally it was like, okay, let's give this guy a shot. Vince sees him. That program he had with Cena, I bet you if we ever see like, a Mick Foley documentary, I promise you that right there was the turning point for KO's career. That program with Cena, and then because ever since then, rocket ship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
That was a fun program too.
it was.
Yeah, it was.
All right.
Speaking of Mick Foley, I've been screaming from the rooftops. His Legends deal has expired, and he's not re-signed with WWE right now. So
That's been the story of his career, though.
Yeah.
He's out and in a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
he'll be making his appearance in AEW soon.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think when they redo the exploding barbed wire death match, like they said they want to do it the right way, I would see him being involved.
The referee or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Cactus Jack Invitational Tournament.
That'd be
There you
fucking
go.
killer, dude. I'd be all about that.
All right, guys, are you ready to move on to our second topic?
Let's
Yeah.
do
Do
it.
All right, let's go. All right, so our second topic of the evening: do you need to be signed with a company to be successful in the wrestling industry?
Define successful.
That was going to be my first question.
Yeah, me too. That's very subjective. Very, very subjective. Because we were just talking about, with KO's contract, $2-3 million. The man was probably, working off of a hot dog and a handshake for years. But I promise you, if he would probably said that, if he didn't have a family, like we were talking about, he was like, damn, I'm in RH. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So it depends. I think Matt Cardona is setting a new template of how independent wrestlers are successful in wrestling right now.
Yep.
And not to mention, of course, with Ring of Honor currently, I think they're going to come back. People are like, oh, that's it. They're going to come back. It may not look the same, but they're going to come back. But they're just going to still have all this huge influx of talent now on the independent scenes. You're going to see guys who are going to have to kind of adapt to that. And, with all these promotions, you got Impact, NWA, GCW, Beyond Wrestling is starting to make a little name for themselves. Limitless Wrestling is starting to make a name for themselves. There's a bunch of other stuff. I think again, like I said, it all depends on what you want to be successful. If you want to be WWE World Champion and you're not nowhere near that, then of course, I guess, you're not successful in your eyes, so it depends on what it says. If it's money, that's success. If it's fame, whatever it is that you feel like is a success, if it's your work rate, whatever, it's got to be defined.
My question is define signed, because do you consider Nick Aldis signed to NWA? Because he's had a super successful career for a guy who's never been in a major promotion.
Yeah, he's signed to the NWA.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you can now. Like I said, Matt Cardona's proven it now. He's not signed officially even to Impact. He's working off of a handshake over there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I don't think you have to be I don't think you have to be signed to be successful. I mean, if you ask around, I mean, if you would even ask local independent wrestlers if they are successful in their career, like I know we have one around here, Chance Prophet, who's a local legend. I mean, I feel like he would say that he's been successful in the wrestling industry because he's had such a successful local career. and he's never been signed to a big company. And I guess it is subjective to what you think, success is, but I don't think you have to be signed to be successful.
Well, I mean, even the Young Bucks before AEW, they were all over the place. They were super successful. Even who's the other guy you guys had on the visits to Tavern from your area? I can't think of his name.
Casey
JBone
King? No, Jock Sampson.
Oh,
Jock
Jock's
Sampson.
great. He's the
Yeah.
man.
He's another perfect example of it. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So of course you can.
I think success is defined by the wrestler itself, himself or
Mhm.
herself. Because as much as we can say, define success, wrestlers have different goals. I know independent wrestlers who their number one goal was to sign with New Japan and win the junior heavyweight tag team titles with their tag team partner. Everyone has different levels to their success. My level may be different from a listener's level or, whoever it may be. And it's definitely different from wrestler to wrestler. Matt Cardona just got out and said that WWE was his developmental to prepare him for where he is now, which I think is just such a striking quote, because in both areas you can, define Zack Ryder as a success, or you can define Matt Cardona as a success. Zack Ryder, selling all the merchandise, really revolutionizing the way that wrestling uses social media, just being so over with having, crowds chanting while The Rock is in the ring, that could be a level of success. But at the same time, where Matt Cardona is now, jumping from different promotions, making his name really known, that's a level of success too. So I think it really comes down to what the wrestler considers his or her success to be. And if that's Matt Cardona's way of saying I'm a success in wrestling, I think that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think we hear all of everyone bringing up Matt Cardona as the example,
Mhm.
and I think he's doing it better than anyone right now. But just to take the other side a little bit, I do think it's kind of unfair to compare a normal everyday independent wrestler against Matt Cardona, who had a
true.
extremely successful podcast that he has followers who love him. When he started going to these other companies, sure, he was a WWE cast off, but the whole reason that worked in GCW is he had this rabid fan base who bleeds Matt Cardona and Major Wrestling Figure Pod behind him, going into this blood and guts company of hardcore independence, and it just worked. Now, your everyday Joe indie wrestler isn't going to have that in their back pocket. But talking about defining success for each wrestler, anyone who chases a dream typically sets out with a major goal in mind.
Mhm.
I'm not saying everyone wants, when you're a little kid and you want to be a wrestler, maybe not everyone wants to main event WrestleMania. Maybe it is main eventing Wrestle Kingdom for New Japan, but there is a big lofty goal in the
Right.
beginning.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then when reality hits, I'm a writer. I moved to Hollywood, played the game, came back. Once you've taken your shot at that childhood dream and fell short of what those lofty expectations were, I think that's when you reevaluate what it is for you to be successful. You may have thought, okay, main eventing WrestleMania, that if I do that, I've made it. But then when that's out of the realm of possibilities, then you become content with, well, maybe I can just be a big guy on the independents. And if that falls apart, well, maybe I can just be big on my local independent.
Mhm.
And that's fine. All of that's fine. Whatever makes you happy. But I do think you have to readjust and really shift what you yourself consider to be a success.
I think a great example of that too, what you just talking about, is Teddy Goods. I'll talk
Yeah.
to Teddy Goods.
Yep.
And that's a perfect example, because now he's just like, he had that program with Smart Mark. He had that program with Matt Cardona. I think it's program with Smart Mark, maybe still going on. But he definitely was like, man, this is like my WrestleMania,
Right.
and like I one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this topic to the table is, and as we know, it came out this past week with the Ty Conti and Sammy Guevara stuff. Twitter is fucking toxic.
Mhm.
And they will hurry up, whether it's Matt Cardona or if it's Joe Schmo at the show, it's Charleston playing, wrestling in Charleston, South Carolina. They're going to go in there and be like, oh, you never made it to the show, you're not successful, or you got cut from WWE, you're not successful. So that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this to the table, to kind of more like not necessarily debate, but educate. Like, look, of course you got the keyboard warriors. You're not going to stop them, but just because you don't see them on Monday Night Raw every night, don't see them on WrestleMania, you don't see them on Dynamite, you don't see them Double or Nothing, doesn't mean they're not successful. So
Absolutely, you're balls on dead accurate right there, because like, out of any time in wrestling, now is a time where you can provide for a family and live a good life just off of your wrestling. Like, there's so many
100%.
successful independents. If you want to hustle and do your thing, you can do it. Look at the indie scene. There's a lot of guys out there. Like, look at Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah.
I mean, he's killing it. I mean, he was with ROH, but he could go anywhere right now and get matches.
Yeah.
Like, guys like that. And that's way more attainable than wanting to be Brock Lesnar. And just because you're not Brock Lesnar doesn't mean you're a failure. Like, that's bullshit.
No.
WWE isn't the end all be all definition of pro wrestling success anymore.
No.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they were the only quote unquote game in town. You had TNA and whatever, but they ruled the roost for
long time,
almost 20 years, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think people see that, oh, you didn't make it to WWE, you suck. And I think it's important as us as wrestling fans to combat that hatred, and that's kind of like, because we're all wrestling fans, we're all marks here.
Yeah.
We talk every week about our opinions and whatnot, but it's important, to kind of combat that, and I think people are starting to catch on to that. I know we had the issue with Tay Conti and Sammy this past week, and shaming those people for bringing on that up. They do it to JR almost every week. There's a number of other people.
Damn it! Hold on. This
Kicked
thing's
out again.
Yeah.
God damn.
Sammy this past week. Sammy this past week. You good to start there, Boney? Yeah.
All right.
They did it to Sammy and Take this past week, and they do it to JR damn near every week. Not right now because he's everybody's all nice because he's got the cancer treatments going on, but it's ridiculous. If you've not stepped in that 20x20, sit the fuck down. When it comes to success or not.
And I feel like if we were to have this discussion like 10 years ago, I feel like it would be, not really like a different situation. I mean, really a different situation because, when you're talking about like goals, when you're looking at the landscape of wrestling 10 years ago, it's WWE and that's about it. NXT was just on the rise, but TNA, started slowly going down. It was really, WWE and NXT is the developmental. Nowadays, the wrestling world is so wide that, like you said, Chad, like WWE isn't the be all end all anymore, especially as far as goals is concerned. You can be a successful independent wrestler, never be signed to a company, and if that's the case, you can be a success. So I feel like this is especially the perfect time to be talking about this because of how wide the landscape is for wrestling, that you could have so many different goals as a wrestler. And I think it just works now better more than ever.
Just to touch on what Boney said about the haters on Twitter and those type of people. First of all, fuck those people. They are the bottom feeding cesspool of the fan base.
Yeah.
But I heard Roman Reigns say a quote one time, and it's so fucking true. I've never met a hater in person. These shitheads who go online and type all their bullshit, if they say they're talking shit to Roman Reigns or they're talking shit to JR or Ty Conti or any of those people, if they're at a signing and they go up and meet those people or run into them at an airport or wherever, they're the first bitch ass motherfuckers to show up with their little notepad. Can I get an autograph? Like,
ready to suck their ass.
yeah, scumbags. I can't handle, like, Twitter, people hide in Twitter, but I feel like a lot of times it's just trolls trying to, they hate their self, so they reflect and want to stir shit constantly.
Yeah.
It's the keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to sit at home behind your keyboard and say anything you want because nobody's there to punch you in the face.
That's what I hate. I hate Twitter. I use it as a news feed, and if I see anyone being a shithead, instantly I mute you. So I never see your shit again.
All right. Well, I think it's time we move on to the final topic of the evening. Are you guys ready for this one?
The main event.
We need Mark Henry.
Yeah,
Right.
It's time for the main event.
You got to get that smile going like he does too. All right. Well, our final topic of the evening. Our 60-minute time limit draws, good or bad?
Take the floor,
Go,
Boney.
JBone.
Go ahead.
All right. So, of course, I heard last week's, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago's edition of Turnbuckle Tavern from Dynamite 2 weeks ago, and we were in the group chat, of course, and I smell what was happening, and I was like, they're not doing this. They're not doing this. And when they did it, I'm just going to type out what I just put. Fuck! Just like that. Obviously, not a fan, okay? And I heard what y'all had to say, you know. This isn't UFC. This isn't boxing. We even talked about that in the chat. However, for one thing, if you heard those fans in both cases in New York and in Dallas, they booed once it happened. There was no payoff, you know, as far as like right then and there, you know. And I know, like we talk, and I've preached it too: patience. My opinion is this: as far as we're looking at the question, are 60-minute draws okay? For one thing, I think they're very archaic. I think that was just something that was used in the territory systems to get, you know, you got Ric Flair coming into town. Woo! You know, NWA champions in town, and he's about to face Joe Schmo from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, you know? And we don't want Joe Schmo to take over the belt, but we don't want him to lose either. So guess what? We're going to do this. We're gonna go 60 minutes. Joe Schmo could go 60 minutes, baby. You know, he could be right there with a 60-minute man. So you know what? Let's go 60 minutes. Let's make this a tie. And then when Ric Flair comes back to town, strutting, maybe he'll have the title, maybe he won't. But we're gonna do this match again, right? This is a different era. You have television product is heavily weighed on this era. Billions of dollars are given. So for last week, for you to go in half a show, and you get that at the end, I think you wasted an entire episode of Dynamite, in my opinion. And going back to, obviously I was not a fan for the 30-minute one, right? Go back to the 30-minute one, right? You had Bryan Danielson coming in his first ever match. And what do? You kiss cousins. You know, I mean, that's partially why I hate it so much. Is because the way they booked it, I felt like it was not great at that time. Now, I'd have heard your point, Chad. You know, where they said maybe they bring it back to a triple threat. If they do that, I'll admit right now, right here, maybe I'll change my tune, but maybe. And I've said it on my own podcast last week.
I'll listen. I have some rebuttals to your podcast too.
and I felt like I wasted an hour, to be honest with you. All I just saw was two guys dancing in a 20x20, shaking and rattling and rolling, laying down. Woo, woo, woo.
That's it.
So-
That's all you got.
That's all you had.
So forget the very ending just for a second. You weren't entertained off the seat of your couch for the whole hour of the match leading up to the last 10 seconds.
No, for about the last 10 minutes, I was pissed because I was like,
That's because you were getting mad. But the
I knew
whole
it was
match
about
was
to happen.
entertaining. It was an amazing match.
It was a phenomenal
no, it was
match.
not.
Yeah.
It was a great match minus the ending, and the
That
ending
that was
overshadowed.
Adam Cole's like he was made.
No,
that-
he
He was
I,
made in that match.
and I think at the same time,
Adam
at the
Page.
same time,
Adam
uh,
Page. What did I say?
Cole.
yeah, Adam Cole.
Cole. Yeah,
It's-
Adam
we knew
Page.
what you meant. We knew what you meant. At the same time, it hurt Adam Page, not because it was his first title defense, but if you look at the idea of the time limit draw, it's always been about the heel getting over on that time limit draw. And he just scurries on out with his title, and he's strutting Ric Flair walking back up the ramp, and not today, Junior. You know, and then you have Hangman doing that, and it's just, I just think the psychology doesn't make sense. And I'll say it. I think Tony Khan, I think he was a coward. I think he's a coward. He didn't know which way to go, so he's like, let's do the time limit draw.
That's the point from your podcast that I had. I was yelling. I was driving my mail truck, listening, and when JBone started talking about it being cowardly booking, I'm screaming, "No!"
That's courageous booking.
It's the most courageous booking we've seen in years. Like the balls, the fucking
Yeah.
gigantic watermelon-sized balls,
Grapefruits.
that just grapefruits. God damn! I mean, he had to. You got to think like this guy has 2 hours of TV a week, and he rolls the fucking dice and says, "You know what? I'm going to give him a 60-minute banger right out of the jump." WWE would never touch that. We always talk about loving great pro wrestling, and that would never happen. So you've got ratings involved. They're watching their ratings. You've got all of this, and to just roll the dice and be like, I'm betting on these two guys to bring in viewers, and the viewership during that match climbed. As the match went on, I think it ended up hitting like a 1.1 million at a certain point during that match towards the end, just because it was one of those things where you could, in the ratings, you could see that people were either following along on Twitter or friends were calling and like, dude, you got to watch it. And the viewership kept increasing. So cowardly booking, no fucking way. That was ballsy booking. The crowd booing part you just talked about. Why the fuck does a crowd always need to be happy at the end?
Let me tag in
Y'all
on
brought
this
that up
one
too.
for the crowd booing, because as a member of the Arthur Ashe crowd, I could tell you firsthand, we booed for a maximum 3 seconds because we wanted to see the match continue. And I think that's pretty much warranted when you have the two best wrestlers in the world going at it. After that, we kind of picked up on, oh, we know where this is going. And that's when we got back into it. Even for the 60-minute draw, I still got the same vibe because there was a maximum 3-second boo because the bell rings. You want to see that. You want to see a winner. The breadcrumbs. If I could put it in Chad terms.
That is an excellent
Cheese for
point
the
that you
Rats.
just
You're
brought up.
not
Cheese
booing
for the
You're
Rats.
not booing that they booked it
result.
as a draw. You're booing
You want
the-
it to continue.
you you're wanting it to continue, but you're booing because it's a good boo. It's like a
Right.
fuck, this can't end, or we want a winner, but it's okay to want a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
both of
course it
the
is.
both of those guys came out like, I don't think it's WWE style where they've done away with the time limit draw for years. The only people that have been doing time limit draws are ROH and New Japan.
Yeah.
Unless you go back to the territory days, NWA would do a lot of them. But like, that's a Vince McMahon ideology to get rid of that. So to bring that back into wrestling, and it's a great storytelling device,
Mhm.
but it doesn't always have to be Steven Spielberg, happy endings, clear cut. Like, I like that they stretch that story. They've made it a thing with Bryan Danielson. And now it's a thing. Like, who the fuck's going to beat this guy? No one can
Yeah.
beat him. The two
I
top
would-
guys
yeah.
couldn't beat
In
him.
my opinion, like if I'm buying a ticket now, granted, obviously I'm not a fan of but if I'm looking at an outside view, I got a big match with Bryan Danielson. I'm like, gonna question: do I want to go see this live? Because it's gonna end up
Yes,
as a
I would
tie.
love to see him put on a show.
It's gonna end up as a tie.
I'll pay money to go see him put on
I
an
want
hour
a 60-minute
show.
time
Yeah.
limit draw. I'll watch that all day long.
I'm with you. I agree. Let me ask you a question, J-Bone. Would you rather go and see a disqualification or a countdown end to that match? Would that give you more satisfaction?
Probably, yeah.
Oh,
J-Bone.
God.
No,
J-Bone.
no.
If you
Stanford has
see-
just brainwashed you,
If
dude.
you see a 60-minute draw, are you going to purchase the pay-per-view to watch the next match?
Probably not. Honestly,
Oh,
No.
You're
I mean,
talking
honestly,
out of your
okay.
ass, J-Bone.
You
Uh,
are, dude.
No.
You're going to tell me if Revolution is main evented by that triple threat,
No.
you're not buying the pay-per-view?
which
Now hold on.
the
Hold on,
rematch
wait
has
a
been
second.
announced
Okay.
on Dynamite tonight.
Oh, was it?
We don't know what it is yet because
Oh,
we haven't
okay.
watched it, but they were announcing when the rematch will be.
If
Well,
that
well,
rematch is at Revolution, sign me the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I'm very critical mainly because I love AEW so much. So I don't want to get everything twisted here. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, and that's partially why I got so pissed. I'm like, they did it again. So, if this was on WWE, like, whatever, just WWE, and that's might be my bias, whatever.
If it was
It's
on
just a-
WWE, I'd be like, fuck, I'm watching WWE from now on.
It's just a storytelling aspect that's something you're not used to, and it just adds a whole different
No, I've
way of
seen
doing
it.
something.
I grew up on NWA and WCW and all that stuff. Like early WCW, not Bischoff era WCW because they didn't have that. But I grew up on that stuff, and I just remember I don't know, maybe it's just as a kid, just like that, just like really just turned me off, and I just have never, enjoyed it. Of course, I'm a big, huge sports fanatic as well, and we talk about that. I know y'all talked about that as well too. Like, okay, this isn't boxing, this isn't UFC, but if you want to present it as sports, then why have a time limit draw? I mean, what's the point besides, of course, storyline? I get it, but like, you want to present it as sports? Why? Why would you have that?
But I hear
You don't
my
see that.
My counter to that is, what do we all say makes for great pro wrestling? We all love realism in our wrestling, reality. When they bring in those
Exactly.
reality-based stories, that's when we connect to those stories probably more than any stories, the reality-based story. If you're wanting to portray it as sports, I'm with you, J-Bone. When I watch a UFC fight, a big title fight, and it ends in a draw, everyone's pissed. But if you want to, that's the point of the time limit draw. It can happen in wrestling. It happens in real sports. This is reality. But in pro wrestling, not only is it designed, it can fire you up. Oh, we wanted a winner. But there's also that added wrinkle of story where you can't tell me that looking at that match, Adam Page didn't get over. I mean,
I don't think he did.
Oh,
I really don't.
dude, I think
I don't think
people,
he did.
people look at him. People look at him now as a credible champion.
Well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. He is, and still is very over. Let me rephrase that real quick. I don't think this necessarily hurt him, but I don't think it helped him either. Like, I don't
How
think
did it not help
You
him
know
when-
what?
No
I'm
way.
actually going to side with Boney slightly on this, but I think it's to the point where because Paige didn't get the job done at Revolution or when he does pin Danielson, that will make him a made champion because
but it
Danielson is established as the 60-minute man.
You
He
don't
did
always
this in
have to get
ROH.
over to go over
Right.
to get over.
and I agree with that. I
But
agree with
in
that.
like in this story, all right, like if I'm not Tony Khan, but if I'm booking this going forward, Danielson's going to hype up that, you didn't finish the job. So until then, he is going to, this kind of builds up that story of Paige, obviously didn't finish the job. When he does get that pin over Danielson, that's going to mean so much more than if he pinned him at Winter is Coming, because now you have that added layer. If he would have pinned him at Winter is Coming, listen, if he would have pinned him at Winter is Coming, I would have been okay because, you had that little build up with the Dark Order. But now that he didn't even pin him at Winter is Coming, now you have a few more months to build up to Revolution.
You're turning Bryan Danielson into a super heel.
Exactly.
An unbeatable super heel that when he is beaten, it means that much more.
Remember when we were fantasy booking Bray Wyatt to be this overlord of
Right.
This is kind of a twist on this, where this is your super villain. This is the guy that you are going to have to beat. If Hangman Page wants to be a credible champion, it's not going to be the case until he gets the pin on him in story. For us fans, we already see him as a made man because he went 60 minutes with the best wrestler of the year. So to me, until he gets that pin, that's going to be the true crowning moment for Page. And the fact that he didn't get it this time around makes it so much better for when he does.
If he gets the pin.
But that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty.
Will he ever get the pin?
But here's the
probably will.
But here's the thing.
Or what if he doesn't? I see your
point. But if this was the very first title defense, and people were already questioning going into it, like, okay, like, yeah, he's good. I'm glad they had the championship, but he's got the championship. But yeah, I mean, it's
dude's
Bryan
more
Danielson.
beloved now than he's ever been.
So how about this? It took Page 2 years to get that title. You think right when he wins the title, he's going to start winning every match that he
shouldn't.
He shouldn't whatsoever. The first time around that he went for that championship, he lost.
Dude,
at the first pay-per-view.
If the AEW hating troll of all trolls, Jim Cornette, comes out and says that match was done perfectly and that it's the best thing Adam Page has ever done.
That proves to my original point that time limit draws are archaic. They're old. They're done. Like
Eight rock.
It's refreshing to see something like that for a guy who's watched WWE for 40 years to be seeing this now. I'm there all day for it. I'd much rather see that than a disqualification or a double count out or somebody being handcuffed and I can't get the key out. Like, come on.
I love that JBone hates it. I love.
Give us a chance to really debate something.
Yeah.
I love he's not back down at all.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Here's all these points. Fuck the time limit draw.
No way. I argue with the master debater sitting next to me.
Oh man, look. I mean, obviously, I love you guys. Y'all are great, and then so thank you. For
I love
me
you guys, but you're so wrong.
I love you guys, but fuck you.
I love it.
No, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, you make valid points, and just for me, I just don't like it, and
I'll say this isn't for me. This is the truth. This isn't just for me. This should be for you too, JBone. You're dead fucking wrong. Time limit draws are awesome.
Yeah.
They should always be involved at some point. And the thing that kills me about all the critics, not just JBone, like there were people that came out and they were complaining that the critics that were saying they just did it. That was in September. I mean, like they've pulled out 2 in the history of the company. No, 3. There's been 3 because Darby and Cody had a.
It's a random one, right? It was a random.
Right.
It was like,
So
didn't Mox and Pac have one too or something?
Oh, I think so.
Maybe,
I think this is the
maybe.
4th.
Well,
So
fuck,
wait, so
dude.
just a quick question. Do you think that
4?
they need to do another draw with Danielson to establish that kind of 60-minute man?
Well, it's definitely a story that's
I think
going
it's
on
established.
Yeah.
I would be
1
I mean,
hour and a
I
half
don't-
hour. I think it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Omega, if he can come back, but to me, that is a prime setup for a triple threat match.
Sure.
Like, but
and look, and like I said, and I said this on the podcast, if they do that, I might change my tune depending on how it goes. I honestly, I might, and you know that might be the thing. Like, all right,
I'm here for
I
the
think,
story.
I think
ultimately, I probably would just need to see the payoff.
yeah,
I think that the ultimate answer to this is we're going to agree to disagree. I think that's the, I think that's the ultimate. We've not
And that's
swayed,
okay.
and that's fine. And I'm with Chad. I like that you hate it. So
It's fine.
I love it.
It's the beauty
fine.
of
And
wrestling.
you guys thought I was the brainwashed one, WWE fan.
And then you said I was the brainwashed man.
Well, no, see, you have an excuse. You're 19, and that's all you've ever really seen up until
I know.
now.
I'm surprised that I'm the one defending this. I've never seen a 60-minute draw in my lifetime. Here I am defending it.
All right, guys. Any final remarks before we wrap it up for the evening?
Yeah, just one thing. Speaking of this 60-minute final matches, just Iron Man match, WrestleMania 12, done.
That was
Yeah.
an Iron Man, though.
That's
was
not
different.
a draw, though.
Different, a little different.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up too. But anyways, that's all I got.
All right. Well, tell everybody where they can watch you guys on Rawdown.
Oh, you can go ahead and watch the Rawdown every Tuesday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you can hear the beautiful voices of young Anthony, Nostradamus, and the OG Fig Kid himself. Hope you stick around for some WWE chat. And as always, Tavern, thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Love you guys. Really do. I'm feeling a Nostradamus shirt coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, man, I can feel it. I can feel that coming.
Are you predicting that this is coming? Do you see it in the future?
We
We touch my jewel.
Hold on.
There's maybe like a crystal ball on the t-shirt or something.
We need a crystal ball with his face in it.
I was gonna say his
Yeah,
face
that'd
has
be
got to be on the
great.
inside of
That'd
it.
be great.
Well, you want to sell T-shirts, right? I mean,
Yeah, and
guys,
be
thank
sure,
y'all so
guys,
much. I really do appreciate y'all. Like I said, y'all have been very great to not only to my own podcast, to Young Anthony's podcast, and it's just a pleasure each week that I get that privilege of talking talking on the Rawdown each and every week. So
You guys are
Dude,
family.
Yeah, you guys are
family.
you guys are family. We love having you a part of the Tavern, and everybody out there, be sure to go Titantron coming down the aisle. Check those out. Great shit. But yeah,
I'll say it again too. Chad said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 times over. I don't think there's a better podcast crew in the game today.
no,
Absolutely not.
Agree, 100%.
Yeah.
love our
Killing
crew. Love our crew.
you're killing it.
All right. Enough ass sucking for each other. Here we go. We're gonna wrap it up, and we're gonna hit the right button to do it. All right, that's gonna wrap up the Turnbuckle debate. Tom, get your shit in real quick before we go. I know
OG
you guys did.
Big Kid on Twitter and Instagram. Turnbuckle sessions every Wednesday. Everybody, Happy New Year from the Tavern.
Oh, that's right. When this comes out, New Year's coming.
Yeah, New Year's is coming. Hope you guys had a good Christmas.
Merry Christmas from the Tavern. Court is dismissed.